Snigdha, and we're super excited to announce our first podcast today on Tech is Our Passion. Tech is Our Passion is a community where we celebrate technologists and explore the latest in tech. For our first podcast today, we are diving into low code. To join us, we have a very special guest, our dear friend David Judoin. He's the CEO of Stackyon, which is a low code platform and is gearing up to make some waves in the industry. Hi, David. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's lovely to have you.
Thank you, Snita. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, the pleasure is ours. So basically, let's to start off with David. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey? I know you have extensive experience in tech in different areas, but what sort of initially sparked your interest in low code, and how did it all begin?
Well, actually, I've spent 30 years in the industry developing different solutions and implementing them at large scale enterprise companies. And one thing was always a challenge was the time it would take to get to an actual implementation of a valid product that would support the business processes of that
Mm-hmm.
organization. So, with my experience, I mean, I've delved into CRM, Salesforce management,
Yeah.
procurement, ERP, many different enterprise applications. But what I found is that most organizations are spending 65% of their IT budgets on custom
Mm-hmm.
development. It's taking them a long time, and they needed better solutions. So Gartner has actually said that over the next 10 years, uh, 50 million new applications are going to need to be developed, and that actually dwarfs what has been developed over the last 40 years. So enterprises are looking for a way to do more with less. The high price of talent, the turnover of talent, it has become
Mm-hmm.
very critical for these organizations.
Right.
So I started getting involved in low code in order to basically develop applications much more rapidly for enterprise customers. And
Yeah.
I've used a series of different tools out there, and none of them actually stand up to the way enterprises develop their software. And that's why we developed Stackyon. Stackyon was designed in order to
Mm-hmm.
help the enterprise organizations develop their the way that they need to with their business processes and implement things without an attachment to high price tech talent, as
Mm-hmm.
well as be able to meet the needs of their time to market for their rapid business changes. And that's how Stackyon was established.
Oh, that's fascinating. Truly inspiring. You did mention Gartner. So we do see a lot of these studies and research is being carried out. I just wanted to highlight one such study. So Gartner actually predicted that by 2025, around 65 to 70% of all applications developed will be using low code. Do you think these numbers are really achievable, or are we just sort of maybe shooting in the air?
No, I think they are. I think a lot of enterprises are trying to modernize their legacy applications.
Mm-hmm.
Legacy applications were built using high code as well as,
Yeah.
for their premise-based operations. With the move to the cloud and SaaS-based solutions, enterprises are looking for ways to modernize their legacy applications developed with things like Microsoft Access, Lotus
Mm-hmm.
Notes, so on and so forth. So from that
Right.
standpoint, they're looking to modernize their existing applications and bring them to the forefront and actually tie in all of these SaaS applications that they're using as well. So there's an integration aspect, there's a modernization aspect, there's also an
Mm-hmm.
application professionalization aspect that enterprises are looking to achieve. And
Yeah.
they're looking to achieve those things on their time frames. So they're looking for tools that can help them more rapidly develop an application. They realize that 80% of an application is going to be repeated throughout their organization. So, from a standpoint of developing applications, they want to develop one application that can actually be implemented across multiple applications. So, they want
Mm-hmm.
to template things, things like security, user
Yeah.
roles and permissions, compliancy, those things remain standard throughout every application an enterprise has to develop. So why would you want to actually continue to redevelop these things? You're looking for a platform that already has these things built in for you that you
Right.
can then. So this is why enterprises are making huge investments in low code today.
Yeah, I'm sure that's pretty optimistic, actually. So, before we kind of get into the, further into the core of the conversation, and I know we'll be discussing a lot of other aspects around low code as well. But if I had to sort of ask you, like, what would be like the one thing that people should maybe take away from this podcast, from your point of view, and why?
Well, I think from this podcast, we want it to be educational, right? So we know that we're not going to be the only low code platform out
Yeah.
there. But we're looking, but we do differentiate ourselves. I mean, we are
Mm.
specifically designed for the enterprises looking for solutions.
Yeah.
And we developed the entire application framework around that. I mean, we're working with Amsure Technologies, which has, had been developing
Yeah.
basically, high code applications for their customers for over 20 years. And from that standpoint, they're looking to service their customers better. So from that standpoint, what I'm hoping that people can take away from this is that are alternative solutions out there, and that you need to basically understand what category they fit in. So what I hope you can take away from this is the fact that you can see that a lot of people are saying that they're low code. Like for instance,
Yeah.
Salesforce.com has a scripting engine, so they call
Mhm.
themselves low code. But you're buying into that platform. ServiceNow is the same way. Microsoft is the same way. So Oracle is the same way. So if you know you have to buy into their platforms and do business the way they tell you to in order for you to develop your applications. A true low code platform allows you to build your applications your way and provide your own workflow necessary for your business with your own security parameters. And you want
Mhm.
to develop solutions in a way that meets your needs as a business. You don't want to have to be changing your business to conform to one of these other third party solutions. So I hope what enterprises can walk away with is an understanding that if you are going to invest in low code, invest in a true low code platform that gives you the flexibility to do what you need as a business, and not invest into one of these large legacy platforms that call themselves low code.
Right.
That's what people take away from this.
Oh, that's great. I hope the audience is taking notes. Okay, one more thing I wanted to address is a pressing debate. I think that's pretty much we keep hearing about it as well, or rather the elephant in the room. And I'm sure a lot of our audience would also want to know is, will low code replace traditional developers or eat up their jobs, or will it actually create new opportunities in the industry? Like, what would what's your take on that?
That's a good question, and I think that's also a fear that a lot of development organizations have.
Yeah.
So the development organizations are being asked to do more by their management. There are still aspects by which you need to present high technologists with opportunities within your organization. There are always going to be that 5% of the solution that is very distinct to your business that you're going to have to develop custom. Plus,
Yeah.
there's also the user interface as well as your data modeling techniques, and interfaces to your third party systems or APIs that you may have developed internally as an enterprise. So I don't believe that developers are going to be eliminated. I think they're going to have new opportunities because what they're going to see is that they
Yeah.
can focus on those challenges that really make a difference for a business. It's not going to be them trying to develop a new mousetrap and develop a new login mechanism, or it's not going to be them developing a new security principle or those types of things for an enterprise. You expect those things to be built into the platform.
Mhm.
So what a developer is going to be working on is those custom and specific things that they as developers can achieve in the custom objects that are needed to basically enhance a 80% solution delivered by a low-code platform.
Got it. Because I think this was something, that sort of came up a lot as well when Gen AI came into play, like, 2 years ago or something. And there was all this panic, is it going to replace the content people, or, certain automate, certain admin tasks and stuff like that as well. So I think it's basically fear mongering more than anything.
Well, okay, so there are going to be those platforms that implement Gen AI to generate code. The
Right.
issue there is the developers have to learn what Gen AI has actually built in order for them to modify it properly. Or they have to go back and basically retrain Gen AI to develop something
Mm-hmm.
differently, right? And that's a
Right.
challenge. The difference
Uh-huh.
with Stackyon is we don't generate the code. We actually
Mm-hmm.
have code already pre-generated. So from a standpoint of what the developer is customizing is they're using their talents in order to build their custom objects, which very
Yeah.
much Gen AI is not going to be able to do easily. So from that standpoint, we believe that where AI is going to basically benefit low code platforms is in acting as a co-pilot for how to configure their solutions, that 80% of solutions or applications that they're developing. So we have a co-pilot, which is AI
Mm-hmm.
based, works on a
Okay.
large model that allows
Mm-hmm.
developers to basically put in general language, and it helps them through the dev studio and actually building out the framework of their applications, and everything else they're doing is above and beyond what Gen AI has actually built for them. So
Oh,
from that
okay.
standpoint, we've created a clear delineation between how AI can help you build applications using low code and how it's going to enhance the developer experience, but still rely upon their talents in order to develop the application. And that 80-20 rule is going to be extremely important for enterprises moving forward.
Oh, that's great. I think because from where I see, also I think low code and AI sort of go hand in hand and together. And I'm sure in the near future we'll be actually seeing a lot more of them being integrated with each other to sort of meet future business needs, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, let's face it, AI is here and it's here to stay. The trick for companies like ours is to understand how AI can leverage to actually
Yeah.
enhance the experience of the end user. We're not looking for AI to replace a developer's job. We're looking for AI to enhance a developer's job.
Hmm.
We're for AI to enhance the abilities of business analysts who can modify the workflows and the processes within the platform using a WYSIWYG process.
Yeah.
And from that standpoint, AI can be used to make recommendations, enforce guidelines, making sure that the person who's building the application is conforming to standards and warning them if they're veering off course. So AI is very helpful from those aspects and allows you to still maintain control as an enterprise in the solutions that your team is developing for your business.
No, perfect. Really exciting things ahead, for sure. So let me just switch gears a little bit here, but still staying a little controversial. I think another sort of hot topic, that we talk about when we talk about low code is security. There are a lot of citizen developers coming up and creating applications. So how do organizations sort of ensure that the apps that are developed on these platforms are like sort of adhering to the security and compliance norms?
Well, that's actually the job of the low code platform. If your
Mm-hmm.
low code platform gives you code, then yes,
Yeah.
the developer can actually modify the code, and actually, there's no way to make sure that that conforms with what your security or compliance standards are. So the platform needs to actually have a platform that is basically separate from the customizations and configurations, and it needs to have a non-modifiable set of security and role standards that are built into the platform, like Stackyon. And that's one of the things that we realized going into this very early,
Mhm.
was that basically we wanted to ensure that basically any developer or citizen developers
Yeah.
we're going to have to conform to the security and compliance standards of the platform, and we built those standards and compliance routines in order to meet the needs of the enterprise. As a matter of fact, large banks, one large bank, Bank of America, has over
Mhm.
102 IPsec tests that they perform on a piece of code before they can actually put it into a pilot or production. So from that standpoint, if you've tested our platform with those 123 different IPsec routines, you don't
Mhm.
have to continually repeat that test for every modification a developer might make. And that's one of the tricks of the trade that Stackyon brings to bear, and a differentiator for its platform in the industry.
Yeah.
It's completely designed for enterprise use.
Oh, great! That's amazing. Also, I think so. As CEO of Stackyon, I think from your personal experience, of course, we did talk about the other stuff. But if you had to sort of mention what would be the key benefits that companies, when would see when they adopt low code, and of course, we do hear some generic ones, as in like faster time to market and reduce costs and stuff a lot. But from a leadership perspective, what would you say that they are, or what does it really bring to the table?
Well, for instance, when you're actually developing your low code application, like you said, there is a faster time to market, right? So
Mhm.
Stackyon can develop applications 10 times faster and 3 times cheaper. So,
Yeah,
faster time to market and reduce is cost is very important to us.
yeah,
But however, from a leadership perspective, one of the things you have to realize is that the platform allows you to make quick adjustments to your business process and flows using the workflow process, which is WYSIWYG in nature, allows you to drag
hmm,
and drop, establish the codes, the approvals, the standards, the notifications, the updates to third-party systems. All of these things can be done very quickly, and you can change those very quickly. So you're not bought into having to make wholesale changes in your applications. So your ongoing costs of actual development and support, you may have 10 people that develop the application, but once you go live with it, you could probably support it with 2 people, and many of our customers do. And from that standpoint, any changes that they need to reflect within the system, those 2 people can handle those as much as you wouldn't have to go back to the 10 people in order to develop those changes. So from that standpoint, the ongoing maintenance cost is very important. The ability to
hmm,
rapidly make changes to the system in order to meet
yes,
new business processes or needs in your organization, or even changes that you make as an organization, is important. Most enterprises are very dynamic in nature. So each year they're going to have different projects which actually change out systems, allow them to implement new data structures, have
yeah,
acquisitions they want to merge into their organization. So what the
hmm,
leadership understand is the platform is designed to follow what they do as a business, not the other way around. You don't have to sit there and do a complex evaluation of what is this impact going to have on my business if I make this change, and what are all the systems that need to be updated in order to reflect it. And then you can look at the priority in regards to what needs to happen before the next needs to happen. But what you
hmm,
need to do is that the applications you're developing, and we call them reference applications for a
oh,
business, right? So you may have a billing solution or order management solution or a shipping solution. That's a system of record. And what
hmm,
we have is we actually have a system of reference, right? So your applications are at the core of your business, and you need those to reflect how you operate as a business. So when you make a change and you decide that you want that change to be implemented, you want to be able to do it very quickly. And so let's say you make a change, it could take you less than a month to make the
yeah.
change within Stackyon, instead of having to initiate a 12 to 18-month development cycle to ensure that you've made all the changes appropriately throughout the organization.
Wow, wonderful. So, if I can, just a follow up question to this, as the CEO, sometimes I'm sure you had to go through some challenging experiences as well. So, what would you say was one of your biggest challenge that you had to encounter, and your biggest learning as well? I'm sure everyone would kind of like to know that.
Well, I think one of the things that I learned is that many enterprises want to know, or expecting that if they purchase a low code platform, that many of their business processes are going to be pre-implemented. What they need to
Hmm.
understand, those templates are things that they can start with that might give them good ideas, but they're still
Yes.
going to need to modify it. So from a standpoint of uh, uh, one of the things I learned is I learned that the expectation of low code is that 80% of your application is already built. And that's
Mm,
not
yes.
necessarily the case. What you have is a tool that handles 80% of the application from a
Yeah.
standpoint of security, compliance, so on and so forth. But when it comes to actually building your user interface, you still want to have control over that. You can
Yeah.
certainly build your own templates as a business and reuse them. And you can certainly basically implement those templates, but you want them to be custom for the way you do business. You don't want Stackyon determining how you should be handling a process like cash to, quote to cash process within your organization. You want to basically determine how that works best for you. And the reason why is because I've seen hundreds of companies have different, actually I've done over 1,000 implementations. So saying over 1,000 different implementations, I can tell you everyone has an opportunity to, yes, replicate 80% of the applications, and that will meet their needs, but the 20% needs to be focused in on and customized for the business. And that was the biggest learning, is the expectations of CIOs and VPs of development is that a low-code platform is going to be that golden bullet. And don't expect it to be a golden bullet. It does require training your staff. It does require understanding how to implement what you're looking to implement, and then how to actually develop things that are going to meet the needs of your organization. And that's going to be important, because if everybody wants to have pre-built templates that everybody else is using, you're actually changing what used to be a custom business process into the lowest cost denominator, and you're going to match what everybody else is doing. And that's not necessarily good for your business. And that's one of the things that I think that a lot of leaders need to understand.
Right. There's one more thing I think I see a lot is when adopting a new technology, for instance, like low code, a lot of times what happens is, just even gaining support from the management or the C-suite, level leaders is sometimes challenging, especially if they're not, very technically inclined or understand technology that well. In such situations, how can we sort of break through these bottlenecks and gain their support?
Oh, well, that requires an organization to understand change management, right? So developing an application is the technology focus necessary to implement what has been agreed upon or you have achieved consensus on. But to achieve that consensus, you need to actually have training or change management implemented in your organization. So you need to understand cross-departmentally who the stakeholders are, not just cross-departmentally, but also with your value partners as well as potentially your customers. So implementing that change and getting ready to understand what you need to implement does require a business to focus in. And this is why we say that business analysts need to be very involved in the project, as well as the project management people.
Makes sense.
That management is very important.
Of course, yeah, that makes sense. Finally, if I had to ask you, so when companies are looking to adopt low code or are evaluating low code platforms that is right for them, what can be some of the most critical factors that they should sort of consider, or some tips to ensure like successful adoption and so that they gain long-term value?
Well, it depends upon how the enterprise is structured. Many enterprises are structured departmentally, right? So each department will bring in the tools necessary to support what their needs are. So understand as an enterprise that you're not going to buy into a single platform. You might actually buy into multiple. For instance, if you look at companies like OutSystems or Mendix, they're more externally facing towards your customers. They're kind of like a Wix on steroids for your customers. Right. So from that standpoint, if you even go to their sites, you see that they support you building out your e-commerce framework as well as your interfacing with your customers. With Stackyon's geared towards the reference applications that you use in order to manage your internal business processes and organization. So just understand that you may find that an OutSystems might be more useful for you in one area of your business, but a Stackyon is more useful for you internally, because we have extensive data modeling tools and we have security compliance and so on and so forth. So from that standpoint, you have to understand what the differences are in the platform and implement the solution that's going to be best for the project that you're looking for. don't try and fit one solution to meet all of your problems, because that's not what low code is meant to do.
No, perfect. I hope everyone's listening to that. Thank you so much, David. I think those were some great insights on low code. Before we sort of wrap up, would you like to add or highlight anything for our audience?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've seen very successful low code implementations,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I think customers need to have a reasonable expectation. They're not
Mm-hmm.
going to realize the benefits of low code until they've implemented it and gone live with it, right? So if
Yeah.
they're expecting a low code solution to come out of the box giving them immediate benefit, it's a project. Okay.
Yeah.
So, one of those things where you actually have to understand your project well, align your team with those expectations, understand who the stakeholders are, have a
Yeah.
vendor that's willing to work with your people like we are, and train your development staff to use the application platform, and ensure that basically the vendor actually has a customer success team that can actually support them and make them experts in the solution. So having a partner is very important when you're actually
Yeah.
developing in code. Just buying a platform, expecting to implement it and have it benefit you the way you want, and expecting zero involvement from the platform vendor, that's a foolish expectation. You want to be a partner with the vendor, and that's important for you to understand. And we at Stackyon understand that, and we work very closely with our customers. One thing I have to say is Stackyon is very much an outcome-driven organization. So
Yeah.
we're willing to partner with our customers to ensure that whatever they put out is going to achieve the outcomes that they've defined up front of what's going to be a metric for success for them.
Perfect. Thank you again, David, for your time and sharing your experience and expertise with us. And all the best with Stackyon. And I think it's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you, Snigdha.
And to our listeners and viewers, thank you so much for joining us today. Please feel free to reach out to us. If you'd like to know more about what we do here, or about low code, or if you have anything to share, we're always excited to hear from you. Thank you.